Hello, this is Pastor John of Crossway Multinational Church, and this is now episode 25 of our Crosslight podcast. Today I want to think about declaring God's praises. These are ideas drawn from the sermon on February 8th, a few days ago, from 1 Peter. I want to start by looking at this illustration. It's an illustration of a scene of a farm, and I want to think about some things that are true about this picture. There's a lot of things that are true about this picture. We could identify some details and specific things. I want to think about it from the perspective of maybe three different personal dispositions. So some of us tend to be optimists. So when an optimist looks at this picture, what might they see? And we might see a beautiful scene, a functioning farm. In the background, we see a swing in a tree. We see a fruitfulness. We see a beautiful day. A pessimist might look at this and identify some problems. There's a hole in the roof, and it looks like there are some broken boards. There's poison ivy maybe climbing on the wall, and there's a cow standing knee-deep in a bunch of muck. There's a big branch that's hanging over the barn that maybe will fall one day. These are things that are also true, and they come from the perspective of a pessimist who's identifying what might be trouble. Most of us, I think, we would like to think of ourselves as realists, that we see both good and bad. We see the beauty of the day and a functioning farm, yet we also see the trouble that is there. Of course, what I'm thinking about is how we look at the world when we look at our neighborhoods, when we read the news, when we think about the relationships between countries, when we think about oppression and goodness, what do we see? And we might be tending toward one of these categories. And what I want to think about for a minute is, what would it be to look at a world that's kind of like this as a Christian? 1 Peter 2, verse 9 says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." This letter, 1 Peter, was written to people who were, in his words, elect, God's special chosen people, and yet they lived as exiles who were scattered. They were living away from their true home and living in a way that they were experiencing trouble because of that. They didn't have all the goodness that they wanted to have. And yet he says to these people, you are, in these great words, you're a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. And yet there was a purpose for all of this. These blessings were so that you could declare the praises of God, this God who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. We are to tell the goodness of God. This is what the church is meant to do. I want to think about that for a minute. What does it mean to declare the praises of God? What helps me is these three broad categories that show the work of God. The first great work of God is creation. God is the creator. He is a good and skillful and wise and all-powerful creator. He's made a good and beautiful world. It's a life-giving world. It's enduring. It supports life of so many different kinds and so many different climates and situations. Forever living underwater, or always in the air, or on the sea, or on the dry ground, living in such diverse settings in complex relationship with each other, and yet it is life-giving. It's a beautiful world, and we give praise to God for that. And so it's a beautiful thing to say, when I see a beautiful day, I can give praise to God because he's made such a good world. One of the things I like about living in Michigan is the great joy when spring comes, that winter has its own beauty and the fun that we can have outdoors, and yet there is something just so rich and good coming out of winter into seeing the new life of spring. And this is because we have a good God. He has made a beautiful world. And so when we see this, we can declare his praises and just say, what a rich, good thing he has made. And yet we live in a world that has trouble. And so the second great work of God is that he is a redeemer. He's a rescuer, a saver. And we can say that he does this because he loves us despite our trouble. We live in a world that has trouble. And so to declare the praises of God, we're realistic about the trouble of the world. We see injustice. We recognize the tragedy of illness and death, the trouble that comes when people are doing what is not right or good, when we don't love each other. And we can see that. And yet in seeing all of that, it shows us the wonderful good news that God chose to come as the Son of God and to be a rescuer, a Savior who paid a high price, incredibly high price, to rescue this world. The world isn't impossibly bad, and it's also not nearly as good as we know it should be. And so in this trouble, he came. And so Jesus came to live and to die, to bring a rescue, to bring the ways of heaven to earth. And so when we see trouble, we can identify that trouble and be honest about it, and yet recognize that the trouble is not the final word. The final word is the one who comes to rescue, and Jesus did that. And so then the final great work of God is that Jesus will come as the new king. And when he comes, he will make all things new, meaning he'll make all things right. He'll make everything just and good and life-giving again. He will end all sickness and sorrow and mourning and death. And he will be the judge, that there will be true justice for all that is wrong. And so we can again look at our world and its trouble and say, there is trouble today, and yet there is a day that will come when all things will be made right. We can give praise to God as the Creator, as the Redeemer, and as the coming King. And so for us as a church, we use this phrase that helps express our vision of who we are as a people, that we are the peoples of all nations being transformed by Christ together to the glory of God. We love being a diverse community together. We love the richness of how we are made greater because of the differences among us. And yet that's not the goal. The goal is to be to the glory of God, to show his goodness as the Creator, the Redeemer, and the coming King. And so when we come back to look at the picture, how do we look at a picture like this as a Christian? And I think we can look at it and we declare the beauty, the design, the goodness, the life that is the world that we live in. And yet this world has trouble. In the picture, there's perhaps a lack of upkeep and natural decay and storm damage. And yet in this, there is a Redeemer, one who is rescuing it and repairing it, who came as Jesus, the Son of God, who suffered and died in order to bring restoration, to bring life. And so then he is coming again as the coming King, making all things new, to bring perfect justice. We delight in the God who has the goodness and the power and the wisdom to make a good world, to bring redemption in a world where there is trouble, and to make it all right in the new heaven and the new earth. And so we want to grow in the skill and the wisdom and the boldness to declare the praises of God in a world that has so much goodness, sadly so much trouble, and yet because of him, it has so much hope.